What you're about to hear isn't just another court update. This is the kind of story where one decision, one line buried inside a legal ruling, can quietly decide someone's entire future. And right now, that's exactly what's happening in the case of Quadajah Johnson, because on the surface, the appellate court's ruling looks routine, almost technical, but when you look closer, when you really break it down, something feels off. Something doesn't add up, and the deeper you go, the more it starts to feel like this case was never as simple as it seemed, because according to emerging reports, the judges didn't just point out a minor issue, they highlighted concerns that go straight to the heart of the trial itself: how evidence was handled, how testimony was presented, and whether the process was truly fair. And that raises a much bigger question that no one can ignore anymore. If something went wrong back then, why is it only being addressed now? Was it a mistake? Or was something overlooked that should have never been ignored in the first place? Because appellate courts don't step in lightly, they don't revisit cases unless something serious demands attention, and if they're stepping in now, that tells you everything you need to know. But here's where things get even more unsettling. This ruling doesn't automatically mean freedom. It doesn't guarantee release. Instead, it opens a door. And what's on the other side of that door is still uncertain. It could be a second chance, or it could be the beginning of an even longer legal battle. And right now, both possibilities are very real. Sources suggest the defense team is preparing to push hard, using this ruling as leverage to seek immediate relief, while at the same time, the prosecution is exploring its own options, possibly preparing to fight back and keep this case alive. And when both sides dig in like that, cases don't end, they evolve, they stretch, they become something bigger, something harder to predict. And that's exactly what makes this moment so critical, because time is now a factor, and time can either work in someone's favor or against them, depending on what happens next. Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, the narrative is already spiraling. People are divided, opinions are everywhere, and social media is flooded with theories. Some believe justice is finally catching up. Others think this is just another delay in a system that moves too slow. But the truth is, most people are only seeing part of the picture, because the real story is buried in legal language, in documents, in the tone of the ruling itself. And that tone matters more than most people realize, because when you read between the lines, it suggests that something deeper may have been wrong, something significant enough to raise serious concern. And now the question becomes, how big is that problem? Is it enough to unravel the entire case, or just enough to force a correction and move forward? That uncertainty is what's driving the story right now. It's what's keeping people watching, waiting, trying to figure out what happens next, because this isn't just about one decision, it's about what comes after it. The next move, the next filing, the next response, all of it matters, and insiders say the coming days could be decisive. This is the window where everything shifts, where strategies collide, where pressure builds, and where outcomes start to take shape. So now we're left with the question everyone is asking: is Quadajah Johnson actually going home? Or is this just the illusion of hope before another long fight begins? Because until that answer becomes clear, this story isn't over. Not even close, in fact. It may just be entering its darkest and most unpredictable phase yet, and whatever happens next could change everything. And this is where everything starts to get even more complicated, because once a case reaches this stage, it's no longer just about what happened in the past, it's about what each side is willing to do next. And right now, both sides are watching each other very carefully, waiting for the first real move. Because in legal battles like this, timing is everything. One aggressive motion, one unexpected filing, can completely shift the direction of the case overnight. And that's exactly what could happen here, because if the defense moves quickly, they might be able to turn this ruling into something much bigger, something that forces the court to act sooner rather than later. But if they hesitate, even for a moment, that window could start to close, and once it closes, reopening it becomes 10 times harder. At the same time, the prosecution isn't just going to sit back and let that happen. They're likely reviewing every word of this ruling, looking for ways to limit its impact, to contain it, to make sure it doesn't spiral into something that weakens their entire case. And that's where the real battle begins. Not in front of cameras, not on social media, but inside legal documents, arguments, and strategy sessions that most people will never see. And yet, those hidden moments are the ones that decide everything, because while the public debates what should happen, the legal system quietly decides what will happen, and sometimes those two things are very different, but Here's what makes this situation even more intense. There's a growing sense that this case is being watched more closely than ever before, not just by the public, but by people within the legal community who understand what's at stake. Because if this ruling leads to a major shift, it could set a precedent, something that affects not just this case, but others down the line. And that kind of pressure changes how decisions are made. It raises the stakes, it makes every move more calculated, more cautious, and sometimes more unpredictable. And in the middle of all this is Quadajah Johnson waiting while the system moves at its own pace, because no matter how fast things feel on the outside, inside the legal process, everything is controlled, deliberate, and often slow. And that delay, that waiting, can be one of the hardest parts, because every day that passes raises the same question again and again: what happens next? Is there going to be a breakthrough or another setback? And the truth is, it could go either way, because cases like this don't follow a straight path. They twist, they turn, they change direction when you least expect it, and sometimes the moment that looks like hope turns into something else entirely. But at the same time, sometimes that small opening, that one ruling, becomes the turning point that changes everything. And right now, no one can say for sure which direction this is going to go. And that uncertainty is exactly what's keeping this story alive, because until there's a clear outcome, every update matters, every development matters, and every delay only adds more tension to what is already a high-stakes situation. So as we move forward, the focus shifts to the next phase: the responses, the filings, the reactions from both sides, because that's where the real answers will start to appear, not all at once, but piece by piece, slowly revealing what this ruling truly means, and whether it's the beginning of the end or just another chapter in a much longer story. And as that process unfolds, one thing becomes clear: this case is no longer just about the past, it's about what happens from this point on, and the decisions made in the coming days could ultimately decide everything